Hey, how's it going, Twee?
Hey Mike, it is going fantastic here. So what are we watching today?
Well, today we're going to check out a common theme that I see over and over across the internet, and that is people telling you not to buy a home. But today specifically, we're going to check out Grant Cardone and one of a clip from him that basically is him saying that people should not buy a home.
Oh, good.
All right, so here's good old Grant, and let's hear what he has to say.
People should not be buying a home. A home is not a good investment. Okay. And if you get over being right here and you put more emphasis on getting rich than being right and actually do the homework. Look, I was telling my wife.
All right, so what do you think about that, Twee?
Well, he is Grant Cardone. He's the 10x guy, self-proclaimed billionaire. I don't know if he truly is a billionaire. He does have a jet. I do follow him online because I actually saw him in person in 2019 when he did I think a wealth conference here in San Mateo in the Bay Area. So and that
Oh, wow.
yeah, I became a fan. I'm like, let's 10x everything. So I just, a lot of things
Okay.
to say. He's definitely right in a lot of sense. However, on this one, for him personally, for
Uh-huh.
him it would make sense, right? Because he's a businessman, he's an entrepreneur. I think he has an investment company where you can actually invest in it and share and buy a fractional share, and he buy like 500 unit apartment. So he's on a
Uh-huh.
humongous large scale. So for
Right,
everyday
syndications,
American,
right?
that
Yeah.
doesn't really translate, right? It translates for rich people.
Okay, so you're saying for average Americans, maybe this advice to not buy a home might not be the best advice to buy into. Is that right?
Yeah, and honestly, if you really think about it, right? Majority of millionaires are not only homeowner, but investment
Hmm.
owner. They have a portfolio. And even like
Hmm.
beside Grant Cardone, even more famous, Warren Buffett. He's
Hmm.
absolutely believe in home ownership. Not only that, but in owning real estate because Berkshire Hathaway has a whole real estate division, which, our company is a subsidiary of. Yeah. And also, right, if you think about it, the baby boomer, right, we are coming up to the largest asset transfer from baby boomer to the next generation. And majority of it is going to be in real estate in properties. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of benefits there. In fact, right, when somebody passes away and then they transfer that property to their kids, there's a step up basis on that, right, too, which is kind of like one of those really truly amazing tax advantages that kind of people that have properties benefit from, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, if you have, just to clarify that if people doesn't know what that is, if you bought a home and no matter what the price, you can buy it for like 200,000. And let's say when you pass away, now it's become $1 million. And
Mhm.
you transfer that to your child, son, daughter, whoever, grandkid. Now their cost basis is at $1 million. They can sell it for $1 million and it's tax free to them.
And that's a huge advantage. I mean, to help get people get a boost in life, and I mean, just in general, it's amazing, right?
It is because if you think about it, if you don't have that step up, the
Hmm.
capital gain, most people think, oh, it's 15-20%, but it's not because most people forget about state income tax as well.
Hmm.
And for California, you easily looking at 35% on your capital gain, which is a huge jump, huge jump.
Yeah,
Imagine you sell $1 million and you're paying like $350,000 in tax.
yeah,
You can
that's
buy
nuts.
another property with that.
Yeah, I one thing now is we did lose the basically keeping the tax basis though, right? Which is kind of a big drawback. That changed, I think, within the last couple of years, correct?
What do you mean?
So now, like when somebody passes away and then they transfer the property, to an heir, do the property taxes still stay at the original basis?
Okay, so the property tax is different from the capital gain tax, right? Because
Mhm.
most people
Yeah,
think about capital gain tax, which is what we pay to the IRS and to the state. Whereas the
right.
property tax for California, yes, it has changed. There is a cap.
Uh-huh. Sure. Yeah. I think in a lot of circumstances, what happens is that because the property taxes rise to the market value at the time of death, a lot of times, like let's say a property's been rented out for a long time, way under market,
Yeah.
that new tax basis and that new tax payment that's due can actually create a big problem for the heirs because in some cases they might not have enough income from the property to be able to even cover the property taxes, and then so they end up having to sell the property, on short notice to be able to deal with that, etc.
Yeah, no, that definitely can be an issue. And actually, like even circling back to what Grant Cardone said about not buying a house or a home,
Mm-hmm.
right? Honestly, I feel like he played with the stock market and he has the big money to play with it and buy a
Mm-hmm.
property. Whereas if you think about it, the average American, even for us, right, saving or buying or having a brokerage account, we don't have that massive cash sitting around just to do that kind of thing. And
Mm-hmm.
when you look at buying a home versus, let's say, putting it into the stock market or investment, there is a huge advantage, a huge leverage because you think about it. You can get a loan on a home purchase, right? Where you can put as little as 3% or 5%, and the rest of it,
Yeah.
95% is funded by a bank. There is no
Yeah.
investment out there beside real estate. Would a bank give you that much money? I mean, and you
That's a
can
good
see,
point.
like, for
Yeah.
such an institution, they value that much and they know it is a very safe investments, very safe security that they know that they're going to recoup that money. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that is one of the best benefits of buying a home is that you can employ that leverage. You obviously have an asset, securitizing that is very likely to do very well long into the future, especially with all the inflation that we've had in the past and that we're probably going to have in the future. And these are some of the reasons why I think it's really instrumental to buy a home and to own a home in this country, because not only have we seen inflation in housing prices over time, but we've also seen them in rent as well, right?
Yes. I mean, if you look at any property you buy, like give or take, even if you're investing, right? You give or
Hmm.
take about 3 to 5 years, like it's going to have a really phenomenal cash flow. And
Hmm.
and in general, right? I think right now in California, it is, or even anywhere, when you buying an investment,
Hmm.
you have to look at cash flow versus appreciation, right? Where we have more cash flow, we have less appreciation. We have more appreciation, we have less cash flow. And I don't know about your
Sure, definitely.
area, but my area is cash flow is really horrible, but
Yeah,
appreciation
same here.
is amazing. I mean, like a property can increase 100,000 a year, not a
Wow.
problem. Um,
Wow.
we see
Yeah.
property anywhere between 7 to 20% increase.
Hmm.
And, of course, depending on the year, right? Some year we're going to have a little more slowdown. Some year it does increase a lot more. And one of the
Hmm.
city that here in the Bay Area is Cupertino, right? Where Apple campus is. If you had bought a home in 1980, it would have cost you about $200,000. Now,
Hmm.
a, an average home is $3 million. So
Wow.
that increase is just off the chart, right?
That's in your area, right? The
Mhm.
Bay Area, San Jose.
Yeah, and San Jose too depends which area of San Jose, and Cupertino and San Jose are like right next to each other. And certain
Right.
area, even in the most horrible neighborhood of San Jose, where school rating is not great, you have more crime or whatnot, we still
Hmm.
expect a good 7% increase in property value. And you know what?
Yeah.
You know that phrase, right? You're gonna live somewhere anyway, so why
Mhm.
pay rent to you're paying the mortgage for the landlord essentially. So why not pay your own mortgage
Yeah.
pocket that appreciation? Because it's not so much the capital right now, but in 10 years or whenever that you want to move on, right? You
Hmm.
can have this massive retirement money or fund
Sure.
money if you want.
Yeah, I mean that's how you create generational wealth. I mean, no doubt about it. Where I live, I mean, we bought this house 5 years ago, and in just 5 years, the rental amount, that it would likely rent for, that it should rent for, is up about $1,000 a month. So just imagine, I mean, being a renter and kind of facing that, as you grow older, if you decide to rent and never buy a home, you're going to be experiencing these rising rents throughout your life. And the big difference is somebody that buys a home, even if they take the full 30 years before they pay it off, at the end of that 30 years, they don't have a mortgage payment anymore. And of course, they have a ton of equity. Granted, they still have to pay property taxes and there's maintenance and repairs. But imagine what it would be like, for the renter after 30 years. What are rents going to look like 30 years from now in California? I mean, I can't even imagine. It's going to be stratospheric, right?
Yeah, and you look at right now like a single family home, right? And let's say the listing that I currently have, a single family home, beautiful neighborhood, good school, right? On average, anywhere between $1.6 to $1.8 million. So even if, let's say, if you buy a home like that, it's going to cost you, give or take, about $7,000 to $8,000 a month to pay for that home, and that's just like an estimate. And if you were to rent the exact same home, probably around like $4,500. So there is a difference of like $2,000, but you pay an extra $2,000 for that home ownership, right? Because in 30 years it's going to be free and clear, and I can guarantee you that home in 30 years is going to be like $6 million. And it sounds crazy, but we do have CD here that has happened. We're at Palo Alto, Menlo Park. At one point was only like $20,000, and it wasn't that long ago. And now an average home is $4 million, $5 million, and it will get to that.
Yeah. Well, two things that I see most people ignore or fail to take into account when they make these sort of comparison analysis between renting and buying or owning is that, one, you have appreciation and you have to factor that in. For instance, where I live, it's actually, I've earned money just on or my wife and I have earned money just on appreciation for living here. So we've got paid actually to live here. And second is that, every month that goes by, you're paying off a portion of the principal. So that's kind of like a forced savings account. And really, you should deduct that off of your payment because that's kind of going into your savings pot automatically year after year. So between those two, a lot of times, especially if prices rise quickly like they have been, for many, many years, of course, a little bit more slowly the last couple of years, but over a 10 or a 20-year time span, they've risen, pretty aggressively. I mean, in many cases, people are actually getting paid to own a home, versus actually having to pay, which is amazing, right? One thing I did want to say just to Grant Cardone's credit is obviously he's a professional investor. He's a super smart guy. He's able to take that money that he would otherwise put as a down payment on a home and invest that, in a multi-unit property, 100-unit building or whatever it is, and generate enough cash flow that he can use that to easily, portion of that to pay his rent. And I think that's what he's really talking about, in a lot of these clips that we see. So I think he's maybe not necessarily saying for just the average person that you shouldn't buy a home, but if you're a savvy investor and you have the capability that he does, it's a different analysis for someone like him.
Yeah, and actually one thing that I think you have a really good point too, because he is a business owner, right? I bet you that the rent on his home he's deducting off of some sort of business, or that the business is paying that for him because it's part of, employee benefits, and, he's actually probably an owner. And so for him, it's an absolutely win-win. You take the money and investing in an investment vehicle, and in the meantime, the business is paying the rent for him. So he's rent-free. I bet you.
I'm sure you're right. Yeah, he's probably doing all kinds of creative stuff on the tax side and, buying a house in the name of the business and uses that to do videos and have meetings and, writes off all the expenses on that or whatever. So yeah, very interesting.
And actually he had talk about that because he had talk about doing, when you have a corporate and you have to have annual meetings. So they had talked about like doing these like amazing vacation for their annual meeting, and they have all the staff with them, and they ran like villa and activities. And so they do their fun stuff, and then they come in and they do some work, and then they go and have fun. I'm like, that is genius, right? That's what the rich can do.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched a video recently of somebody that kind of, established their own family office as an investor, a stock investor. And so I don't know like what the threshold is before you can do that or qualify or whatnot, but basically he does the same thing. He takes his whole family on, some lavish vacation and stays in a beautiful place. And then they
Yeah.
have, a meeting,
Yeah.
board meetings, I guess, with the family
Yeah.
who are all part of his family office. So that way he can justify it legally for taxes and then take advantage of being able to go on these great vacations with the family, which seems
Yeah.
like a pretty cool strategy.
It is. It is. And there are definitely a lot of those strategies out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think this was a great discussion about whether or not buying a home is a good idea or a bad idea. I'm sure we'll talk about it more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate the time spent with you today. And I want to interview you in the future because I know you own a lot of real estate yourself and you've been very successful as an investor yourself, right?
I don't know about a lot. I have some.
Don't be modest. I'm just kidding. Cool. Well, let's pick this up. Oh, sorry.
I know. I was like, all right, let's talk again. This has been fun.
Yeah. Let's do this again. Awesome, Twee. Well, it was great talking with you, and I'll see you soon.
Yep. Sounds good.